Alright, YouTube, today we're working on the truck. I got these AFR heads with these cast manifolds. These are going away. I got a set of Summit headers that are meant for a 66 or 68. I have no idea if they're going to fit. I know every set of headers that I've tried, even the short tubes that I got sitting up there right now, are all too goofy. The stainless ones up on that shelf hit this front cross member that I didn't want to hack into. The shorties dump out right at the Z-bar. So we're going to try this Summit set and see what happens. I have no clue if it's going to work. Odds are I'll probably end up having to bash them around with a hammer, but I got the truck on the lift. I just pulled it up, separated the actual exhaust from the manifolds, and now we're going to start digging into taking this apart. So on the manifolds, not a ton of room to work. But you have a bunch of 9/16 bolts. Let's see if I can get a light on here. I'm going to start with the driver's side because this is the side that gave me the most issues fitment-wise. I know a lot of people say there's issues hitting the cross member on the passenger side or the starter. That could still be the case. I have no idea. Hopefully I have the right size header bolts. I know the flanges are way different, so I'll have to take a look at that. Sometimes these will be really stuck or seized on there. These have been on and off a handful of times, so it's not as difficult to get them apart. So I'm going to keep breaking these loose. I need the space here, and there's nowhere else to put you where you're going to be able to see. So let me break these apart and get this manifold separated. Okay, got the manifold off. Basically 2 9/16 bolts on each. You got a long one and a short one. But everything's out, ready to go. Gasket stayed in one piece, so I'm going to try and recycle that one for now. Really, it's more of a fitment and try and figure out if this is even going to work today. So here is the cheapo Summit header kit. I honestly don't. I opened this to see, but I never actually went through anything. Here's the header. It looks like they do give you some bolts, so that's good. And collector gaskets and collectors. I think I ordered the collectors separate. I gotta check. I might have a different set here. No, I have another set here. So whatever size this is, I gotta figure out which one this is in comparison to the one that I need. Not sure exactly what I'm doing with the rest of the exhaust yet. Just trying to get the headers in today. So let me grab this, get set up, and see what fitment looks like. Not even close getting it in there without pulling the master. So I pulled the master, just loosened it and shifted it over to the side. Now I'm going to pull off that valve cover. Probably going to replace that valve cover gasket right now too, since that one is leaking pretty good. So win-win. Pull the valve cover, try and get a little bit more clearance, and then see if I can snake it in through the top. If not, I'm going to have to pull that Z-bar and try coming up from the bottom. Alright, the valve cover's out. You see the 1.7 roller rockers in there now. But that should give me a little bit more clearance to try and snake this in. Here for now, I know it's not the best angle, but you're in my way if I put you on this side. So. Alright, looks like the Z-bar is going to have to come out, so I'm going to have to go back under. Separate the clutch. On this one, since I'm running a 3-speed 303 trans to a 5.0 roller cam block, I had to get one of the adapters for the bell housing to run the Z-bar linkage. So it's this little bracket here. I did have to cut and weld that a little bit to make everything fit. And now I'm going to pull these 2 bolts, and that'll loosen up this bracket and this side. Then I'm going to slide this out, and the Z-bar will be able to pull off this way. It's still attached to the clutch pedal, so I'm hoping I don't have to take it all the way out. If I do, then I gotta drop it back down and go in the cab. I release the adjuster. I just take a long piece of wood or a pry bar, pry it off this bolt onto the actual linkage here to pull this back, and then the pin just drops down. So we get that top side out and see if I can get enough clearance. two 5/8 bolts. They go through the bell housing bolts here on this bracket. Here's the bracket. Here's where I had to cut and weld it. I just basically think, if I remember correctly, I had to take like a 1/2 inch or 1 inch out of it. And this side is just a counter pin for the clutch linkage. Let's see if I can wrestle the header up through there instead of coming down. For the headers, make sure you, this is just a temporary coating, it's not going to last. Once I know that these will actually fit and I get everything pounded into place, then I'll be able to go about blasting and coating these before the final install. I'm going to get them in today, but a little bit here just for the steering box, but it looks like these might actually fit. So here's the headers. I just put two little white paint lines right there. That one's pretty much hitting the steering box nut, so I'll grab a hammer and bash that in. Try and see if I need to use torches or not. I don't really care aesthetically, it's more function. So I'll start pounding this and we'll be back. I did not film that. It took me a whopping 30 seconds with a hammer. So all I did was take a hammer to that tube, pounded it in around that mark to give me nice clearance. Not the prettiest thing in the world. You can heat them up and torch them and make it flex a little easier, but I don't really care. Clearance a little bit more because I'm not putting the bolts in. I like to give myself more room than less. I don't need anything rubbing. So, stepping on the flange, trying not to bend this all that much. Brand new parts right out of the box. Alright, so I'm opening up the Summit stuff that came with it. See what's in here. We got some collector reducers and then some 9/16 center bolts. By that I meant 3/8/16 on the threads. They do come with the small 3/8 size head, which is kind of nice. Should help me a little bit in terms of clearance here. Just threw the gasket back on. It's gonna be one of those. I'm gonna set you here until you fall over. Pretty much guaranteed to happen. That's usually how these videos go if you've seen any of my other ones. I'm telling you it's probably gonna fall. You're definitely gonna fall. Right now we're just doing a quick test fit on here. Let's go through. See if we can get one of these started. Now. Just make sure you're getting these going in good, especially if you got aluminum heads like I do. Not hard to strip these out. Got one in. Got the other hard one in the back. Two in. So far, so good. I've literally tried probably 6 sets of headers on this truck to figure out which ones would work best. And again, I'm not a big purist for pretty things. If I wanted to, you know, like I could clean up the engine bay, make everything look super nice. Right now I'm more of a function over fashion mindset. I just want to get everything dialed And worst case scenario, if I ever do want to go that route of cleaning this up and make it a real nice truck, then I will blast everything apart, get everything powder coated, ceramic coated. But it's a work truck. Pretty trucks don't get used for work. This one, crap out of it, and just keep it going. So far it's been really good. It takes whatever I throw at it. Learned a lot doing this truck. Built this motor in the garage last winter. No, 2 winters ago, and we put it in right before winter. And it's been good. It's fun when you build your own stuff and travel. Take it way farther than you anticipated. You know, this thing's been to Iowa, upper Wisconsin, all over the place. But it's nice knowing that you actually put the block together yourself. Alright, let me snug these down. Just grab a wrench. They all thread in, they all fit pretty good. It looks like I'm okay so far. We'll see what happens once I get these like snugged up and then try and hook up the clutch linkage. Alright, so tightening these all down. 1/4 inch drive, 3/8 has worked on pretty much all of them. 3/8 drive, 3/8 has worked on all of them. The only one that I wasn't able to tighten down to the socket is this front exhaust one for cylinder 5. On a Ford at least, cylinder 5. And again, I'm just kind of doing, not final torquing these yet. I'm just kind of getting them snugged up so I know everything's tight where it's supposed to be, and now I'm going to go underneath the car and put the Z-bar in. Alright, so I set the Z-bar back up on the left-hand bracket that's mounted to the frame. Now I got to figure out the right side again, the one that I just pulled off of the trans through the bell housing bolts. So, oh, there's the drive shaft and tail housing. Stay. Might be easier to set this into the, I don't remember what the order is on this. It's easier to set this bracket on the linkage first and then slide it into the frame. Or vice versa. A little high on the lift, so really I should come down just a hair. Make it easier on myself. Alright, clutch linkage is in, bar is in. Drop the spring, and come down a hair here. Don't need to be reaching up in the air for things. Alright, so the equalizer bar is back in. Now, put some bolts in. So far it looks like everything's fitting like it's supposed to, which is a major plus. Hopefully I can actually respond to one of those Summit requests that pop up all the time, like, oh, review this product, or did this work, and blah, 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 blah. Oddly enough, I spent so many hours trying to figure out what people are running for headers when they put 302s in these, because 64 didn't come with a small block. And me being fortunate enough to grab this already swapped. It's not like it's the most glamorous or nicest swap in the world, but it was good enough. It's definitely not the prettiest. This definitely looks like a farm truck and was used as a farm truck at various points. There's all sorts of things wrong the closer you look at it, but for me, bought this running and driving-ish. The starter, the ignition key switch was sticking, so the starter stayed running. So you had to start the truck and then turn it off, and then turn the ignition back on while it was running to keep the thing from burning up starters. I think I went through one of them just driving it home, 1 or 2. Managed to make it home. Died on me on the way home. Had to re-jump it. Good to have buddies around, but luckily I picked this up about 15-20 minutes from the house, so it wasn't too terrible at all. Alright, now I need a cotter pin for the clutch before I go any further and lose that one. Yeah, no I don't. That's okay. If I can get the spring on and load this adjuster in, that should suffice too. So, I mentioned this earlier, now you get to see the opposite install. All I do, I got these big wooden dowels. I recommend using steel just because this can be kind of tight sometimes. And this one might crack on me. But that's it, just a little bit of pressure. Pull it out, put the push rod in, and then the tension from the pressure plate's gonna hold that in place. So I gotta cotter pin the clutch linkage and tighten these bolts down, and then hook up my return spring. But so far, so good. It looks like we might actually be clearing here. Only I can get a wrench in to tighten these bolts down. Didn't think about that part, but we can get that. Grab a swivel. I can deal with a bolt being a pain to get to if everything else works. It's a minor inconvenience. I'll come back and get this lower one again. Okay. Header's in, bolts are in. I got the exhaust gasket on so I can re-snug that up top. Now I just gotta grab the cotter pin and slide that back through the clutch. I can remember how this went. Looped around here. Like so. And then this front one clips on the frame up top. In an attempt to fit some of these other ones on here, I did hack up the stock 3 and the tree mounting, but I never planned on going back to that. I never switched the columns, so this was a 3 on the tree truck. It's been converted to 3 on the floor when I bought it, so we're going to leave it that way. But here's how those headers sit. Got a little bit of rubbing still on that steering box right there. I'm going to try and see if I can get in there with the hammer at all. But for now, let's see what happens. A little bit of rubbing on the steering adjuster nut on cylinder 7. So what I'm going to do now is actually loosen up the headers. I'm not going to take the Z-bar and all that out. I'm going to hook this spring up. I'm going to loosen the headers, drop them down just so I get a little bit more clearance, and beat the crap out of it with a hammer. Okay, so this got a little more difficult just because I've already bent this. And it's got a nice little ridge here from where I pounded the center section. I really need this to move, so now I'm going to sit here torching this. I have oxyacetylene torches, but that's way too much work to go pull out, so we're just going to warm this up a little. I'll show you guys some fun stuff that I just learned too, which would have saved me a ton of time in a little while. I'm going to go to put these back in. So that white section on the side of this header where the flame is, this is what's got to get bent in. I'm going to clearance it a little bit further. I'll probably get like 5 miles with this before it starts rusting like crazy. But that's okay. Nice red color on there. Probably less crude ways of doing this too, but whatever. See what that does. Just make sure I don't touch that warm spot. Oh, here's the fun things that I just learned. Instead of pulling that whole Z-bar assembly, grab this header. this actually slid right up. So I wasted a ton of time based on the last couple sets I tried doing this with. Whew. Probably a good idea to let these cool before you hang them up again, but there we go. Slide right in, and then go back up, try bolting this in again and see what it looks like up top. Alright, headers are in. Definitely have a lot more clearance. I don't know if you guys can see this, but here's the gap. I might have went a little crazy on the hammer, but hey, it's clear. So headers are installed. Z-bar and all that's hooked up except for the clutch spring, so I'll throw that in next and move on to the next side. Okay, I got the other exhaust manifold off, drop this up through. Like I said, I'm going to try tightening down all these bolts. All the bolts on this side were a little bit harder to get in than they were on the driver's side, just lining them up, but everything clears so far. I'll go into the car once I put this back in the air. I got to pull that starter wire and then reroute that so it's not going to be hitting any pipes, but we'll take a look at that on the bottom side. Here's the underside of the car with these Summit headers. They do definitely look like they're going to hit the cross member if I come straight back, obviously. So I'm going to have to get a little creative on fabbing these up, but they fit the motor and they come back and give me plenty of clearance. So I'm either going to have to fab up a hard little section here coming off of the header collector and go over, which is kind of what I'm leaning towards. I really don't want to drop anything below this because it is a work truck and I load this down pretty heavy. So we'll take a look. If I stare directly over the cross member, that's pretty much where the header is landing, going straight into the cross member. I'm not going to refab a whole cross member just for this. I'm going to snake the pipes around it. So there's that. Header install is complete. Part 2 for this video will consist of figuring out how I'm going to make an exhaust that works.